Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the very first episode of Advanced Kayak Angler. Um, if you're following me over from Paddle and Fin, I sure do appreciate it. Hopefully, you're not leaving any Paddle and Fin shows. This is just going to be an ad to your podcast catcher, whatever, however you listen to us, Apple or anything else. Um, but yeah, we'll be available anywhere. And this show is really, if you didn't listen to me and Armando talk about it, this show is going to be absolutely going in detail about a topic and just giving you everything we can, whether it's from me, from a guest, from whoever it is. I'm going to search out whoever I think or whoever is known to be the best at these techniques in our sport. And sometimes, uh, you know, in fishing, whatever it is, maybe not be kayak guys, but whatever it is, we're going to have them on the show and we're going to talk about it and go in depth as possible. Some shows are going to be short because I don't want to miss any topics just because I don't think they can fit an hour show. Some of them will, maybe they'll only be 15 minutes. Some might go a little bit longer, but we'll never try to go too far over an hour. But I never get a chance to do this. But since I don't have any show sponsors, and if you're wondering why me and Armando kind of teamed up under Bass Kayak and Beers, is four sponsors. So it's kind of like Paddle and Fin, where it's Bass Kayak and Beers, and then underneath that it's going to be his show, and then my show, Advanced Kayak Angler. It just helps organize it a little bit better. It helps with sponsors, bringing in, you have better numbers, things like that. So if you're wondering why we're under one deal, that's why. I think his is the real life, but he's a much better interviewer than I am, and mine's going to be more detail oriented because that's what I'm best at. But my personal sponsors, I want to give them a shout out since I usually don't. It's Yak Gadget, C Pro Lithium, best batteries I've ever used. Bucks Island and Gaston. If you're in Alabama or West Georgia, please check them out. They have Hobies and Jackson kayaks, and yeah, just a bunch of great brands. And you can also see, if you're watching, X-Zone Lures. I've been with them for over 2 years now, and the Craws float, can't say enough. If you haven't checked it out, because I know they're not the biggest brand. Brandon Polinick designed some other baits, so you know how good he is. So check them out. But so tonight we're going to try to have on Mark Edwards as well, but he lives way out in BFE, West Virginia. But we do have Casey Reed, and yeah, man, thank you for being on.
Hey, thanks for having me on the first show, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
that's awesome. But yeah, it's like the inaugural show. I like it. But if people don't know who you are, tell them who you are, man.
Yeah, so I'm Casey. I fish a bunch of tournaments all across the country. Fish some KBF, some bass, and probably get into some Hobies here soon. But I just try to fish as much as I can and hopefully win some checks.
There you go. And you're in Virginia, right?
Yeah, I am from Virginia.
Cool. What's your home lake over there?
So Smith Mountain Lake is the closest lake to me.
Okay.
I fish that quite a bit. It's a pretty awesome lake. It's gotten really good over the past 4 years. They
Mm.
started stocking the F1 tiger bass in there, I think 4 or 5 years ago, and it seems like it's just taken off. There's been so many 5, 6, 7, 8 pounders caught out of there in the past few years. The tournaments went like 16, 17 pounds would definitely win a tournament. Now you're talking about during the spring, you got to have 26, 27, 28 pounds to win a tournament. So
What?
those
What?
F1 tiger bass are really taking off.
Why hadn't National Trails been there?
KBF's been there a
Oh, have
couple
they? Okay.
times. Yeah. So I actually brought, I think for the first tournament, I do a lot of night fishing, but
Mm. I
I
always
brought
see
the
that,
first.
man. Yeah, on your page, I'm always seeing you fish at night.
Yeah, I brought the first. It was a KBF night trail. We actually did it there from. It was like from 6 p.m. to like three a.m. or something, and
Wow,
that was pretty cool.
that is cool. Well, cool, man. Like I said, I appreciate you going on. But tonight it's shaky heads. Like, I know this is maybe your favorite technique. I gotta say, it's probably my go-to. So it's a great way to start on this new show. And Mark, he said, uh, if he does get on, he had said that that's like his fallback. If he ever needs a fish, he's going to go to shaky head. So we're kind of going to go over. I guess we'll start with the the actual heads. I guess that would be a good place to start. what size and what heads and what makes a good shaky head to you? Because I know me personally, I've been through like all of them, like at least 20. I've tried them all. I've went to different ones, thick hooks, long hooks, stout hooks, twist lock, the regular lead heads. There's tungsten. I mean, there's 1,000 different choices. What are you looking for in a shaky head?
So I used to throw a football lead head, and not too long after, or I'd thrown it for quite a few years, I guess, and then I found this one head that's made by Bruce West at Jig Shack, and it's tungsten. It's got a screw lock bait keeper on there, and I think it's a 4/0 hook. I think it may size up
Longer.
to a 5/0 if you go to the, I think, half ounce or bigger maybe. But ever since I found that, I don't throw anything else. I mean, it's not cheap. It's tungsten. We all know tungsten's
Yeah.
pretty expensive, but it's by far the best head I found. So it's kind of like, it's not the football. I found I would always get hung up in rocks everywhere I went, hung up a lot, and I throw it around rocks a lot, and I was breaking off so many shaky heads, and this is like an oval kind of style. It's not a football head, and it's not round, but for me, it doesn't get hung up nearly as much. I can throw it anywhere I want to, and the bait keeper on there was really nice. They've actually added a new bait keeper to the lineup this year. I haven't tried it yet. I bought some, just haven't been fishing to go out there and throw it yet. But it's like, instead of the screw lock, it's actually a thicker wire, and it's just a straight little shot coming out of there, and it's just got a hook on the end of it. And to me, it really seems like that's going to be the key, because I definitely would break off a few of the hook keepers, because it was just kind of real thin metal, and this is a little bit thicker. It's just one little straight line. There's not a whole lot to it. It's not big and bulky, um, and that's 100% my go-to. As far as the sizes, I used to only throw an eighth of an ounce. That was it. Everywhere I go, it didn't matter if the wind was blowing 30 miles per hour in 20 foot of water. I was throwing an eighth of an ounce. But I right now my go-to is more the 3/16, and I'll throw a quarter ounce as well. I have about 4 or 5 different sizes
That
around those.
the quarter would just be for out deeper.
Yeah, mainly. Yeah.
And I know there's different kinds. Like if you're not watching this, it's fine. But some of them are like shaky heads are more straight up and down, and some are more of that, I guess, Carolina creeper kind of style, where the hook is kind of more at a, instead of more of a 90 up, it's more of a 45, like in between. What kind are you throwing? Does it like a, here's a good example. I think the missile bait warlock, like that one's at a 45, where it's more that creeper style, which I know like Fluke Master, if you watch his videos, I, he's from Georgia, but some people like that creeper style. Is that what you're throwing, or is it more like straight up?
It's more straight up.
Straight up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were talking about the ones that I use. If I'm fishing offshore, like Tennessee River type stuff, and I'm out on ledges, I do like they don't make them anymore, but there was a company called Fish Ranger here in Montevallo that they used to sponsor Clint Davis, a pro from my area. And but they have like football shaky heads where it's spring lock, 3/8 ounce, and I've got like 1,000 of them damn things. I bought them because they were shutting down. I was like, I'm buying them all. I'll never need another one, since I know they were like selling $1 a pack for 3 of them. I was like, I'm buying them all. I'll never need another one. So those I do use for offshore, but there's a lot of other good brands. But I know, because shaky head is my deal too, and the one I've went to a lot of different ones, and I've tried, from the Buckeye, where it's the stand up, to the uh, Dirty Jigs win the Luke Clawson. That's pretty good. I mean, it's just more like your standard shaky head. The Davis bait, the super long hook, which is more like a 4/0, those are good. Uh, the Strike King Tour grade, if those are good too. The hook's a little bit stouter on those, is why I don't use them so much. But I want the show to be for beginners too. So I guess I should have said this before, but I kind of want to cover it for the newest guy to the guy who's been doing it for a long time. But really, if you're not watching this, a shaky head, if you don't know what it is just some kind of little piece of metal with a hook where you tie your line onto, and then a hook, and it stands up, and you put a worm on it. Is there? I'll ask this question too because I really want to be detailed. Some eyes are horizontal to the hook, and some are vertical. Does that matter to you? Do you carry the way?
I've never really paid that much attention. Mine are in line with the hook though,
Oh,
but yeah, I don't can't say that I've ever really noticed a difference or anything like that.
I'm weird about stuff like that, but I don't think it makes difference either. Because for the longest time, they had to be in line. If it wasn't vertical to the hook, like straight in line with the hook, I wouldn't throw it. And now the ones I settled on are different, but I really don't think it matters. But the ones I settled on right now, I might change next week, are the Gamakatsu skip gap head. And like Casey was saying, I throw 3 different sizes: 1/8 ounce, 3/16, that quarter. Those are 3 that I keep in the boat. Um, yeah, and they just work. They work for me. Sometimes bad thing about these, they're hard to find, but they have a little bit. The reason I like them, I don't think I have the strongest hook set, and we'll go over rods too. But I think just generally, I don't have the biggest hook set. I know some people, lay the wood on them.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm not that guy. I mean, not that I ain't got the power. I'm kidding. But I just don't have the strongest it seems like I keep my drag a little bit looser, and I don't have the strongest hook set. So I went to a hook that's a little bit more needle, like a little bit smaller. It doesn't quite I mean, it might flex just a hair, but I found that for me, bigger hooks for techniques, unless we're like way up in the grass, I want a little bit smaller wide gauge hook that works for me. So I would say if you have a good hook set, you could go with a heavier gauge wire, hook. Or if you're like me and you don't always get the best hook set, that look at a thinner gauge, because I know that for me has made a big difference, and that's one of the reasons I like these. So we got the head. What kind of baits are you throwing on there?
so all I throw is
Oh, I like it. All you throw. I see. That's my jam. I don't want to carry a bunch of stuff. People that have like 10 different baits. I want like what's the one?
so basically it's a trick worm. Hey, hold on one second. Sorry.
Yeah, man. Trick worm. That and if you're new to this, a trick worm is like great. You can do just about anything with a trick worm. A trick worm is the standard. Besides Davis Bait Shaky Head, which I think they have the shaky worm. That was the first one. But yeah, trick worm. That's all the standard for all others is the trick worm. So that's what you use, huh?
Yeah, I mean it's actually the I'm sorry, I said the trick worm. It's actually I do throw the trick worm a little bit, but it's the shaky head worm.
Okay. Yeah.
That I kind of use the terms interchangeable, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
actually the shaky head worm that's got the real. It comes out to a real skinny tail.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, they don't make some of the colors, or at least I can never find them in the shaky head. I don't think they make the black in the shaky head. So if I ever go to throw just straight black, I will go to the trick worm. And as far as for the shaky head worm, it's mainly the magnum, which unlike the trick worm, the magnum is like really fat.
Yeah.
The shaky head trick worm is just longer. And it's the same diameter.
Okay. Cool. Now I'll say the ones I throw. Obviously, I'm with X Zone, so you can take that for whatever it's worth. The tails float on them, so I really think that's a thing for me. It I like it. They have the MB Fat Finesse Worm. I've taken these even with my kid. I put him in the tub and we're sitting there playing. I try to get him involved so he gets into fishing. But I sat there and I want to see him float and what they do because I don't have a pool because I don't have money like that. But but yeah, we sit there. But the MB Fat Finesse Worm, that's a great one. And they also make the Deception Worm, which I like that one too. That's more like I guess if you were thinking about trick worm and finesse worm, the
Yeah,
MB finesse would be MB fat finesse worm would be more like the trick worm,
yeah,
and the deception worm would be more like their finesse worm, something smaller. But the tails do float, although the tail does float better. And I know this from my tub, not while I was in the tub, but the MB fat finesse worm, the tail floats better on that one. So it is fatter, a little bit bulkier profile. I kind of think with everything else, like it, whatever you're throwing, it fits into a lineup of other things that you're throwing. Like if you're throwing a Ned, I don't want too small a worm because then it kind of overlaps with my Ned, or like everything fits into the system of the baits that you have. And for
yeah.
me, I like that little bit bulkier profile because I'll go to smaller stuff on my Ned. So that's why I thought. But I've thrown them all. Trick worm's great. The Strike King Baby Fat Finesse, that's a little bit smaller. That's a great one. They make great colors in that, and it smells good. Plenty of good ones out there. So both these worms are different, and you can tell. Like I don't know how much it's more about whatever you have confidence in, probably.
Yeah, oh, it 100% is, man. Like
Yeah,
I honestly, I don't think for me it has anything to do with that worm. It's just like I've tried other worms, but I just don't have the confidence in it, and I've been throwing those worms for 10 years and just been catching fish on them. So it's like it's one of those things. It's like why am I going to change it up? Like I have the confidence in it. It works.
they're easy to get and they're inexpensive.
Yeah, exactly. You
Yeah,
can get them at Walmart, and that plays a huge role in it too. Because when we're traveling for tournaments all the time, you get done with the tournament, you get off the water, it's 5:36. The bait shops are closing, and you're like, oh, I need some worms.
that's
So you
right.
go to Walmart and see what they got.
Is there like a so what's your colors?
So I try to stick to three colors: green pumpkin, black, and June bug.
Okay. What do you have certain thoughts on
So
whenever you throw? What is it? Just water clarity?
I'm throwing green pumpkin until I feel like I'm just not getting bit.
Yeah.
If I think I'm around fish and I'm not getting bit, um, generally when it's darker water, little when you start to say, "Hey, that's some muddy water," I'll switch to the June bug or black, and then like tannic, real tannic water. I'll definitely switch as well.
Gotcha. I'm s- I mean, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like I'll really only throw June bug in Florida. I don't know why. I think our water isn't really tannic. I guess to me, tannic, I'm going to throw the June bug, but
Yeah,
yeah. But mine are pretty just water clarity. A black and blue or black. Exxon sells both. Um, then I go to green. They sell tilapia. I like that. It's like just a bluegill imitator. It's green pumpkin, kind of purple, pink, and a blue in there. A few brands have that color. So green pumpkin blue, pretty much. 309 is like their super like translucent kind of baitfish color. I love that color. And plum also, June bug would be down Florida for me, and then sometimes I throw plum in the boat. Just that's Tennessee River and stuff like that in the summer. That's kind of the deal. I actually caught like a brim a couple of years ago at the bass event there, and that damn thing was plum colored. Like I couldn't believe. I wish I had it. I could just bring it up. It was actually plum colored, like pink translucent with blue. I've never seen one like that. And I always wonder why that color worked there. Or
yeah.
morning dawn too. I guess same thing. There are actually pink fish out there in the summer. So there you go. But PB and J too. That would be like same kind of deal. But
Yeah, I
those
mean,
are
it's
all,
like one of those things. There's so many colors out there,
yeah,
and like a lot of them are so similar. Like
yeah,
I think for the beginner, just to like try to keep it simple. Like I used to just go out there and I'd buy like all the different packs that they had at Walmart, every color they had, and like I just had so much crap, and it was like
yeah.
you just need something like a realistic color, something dark. Like that's kind of the two colors I think you need. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, you
I
may
like
go to a certain body of water where like they may key in on a certain color, but I just think really for the most part, most of the country, green pumpkin
and
will
black. Yeah,
catch you fish. Yeah.
that's right. Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, beginner guy. If you're looking for one, green pumpkin and a black, something medium looks good, and something darker for darker water. If you're advanced guy, been doing this for man or woman, been doing this for a long time. Go crazy. Get whatever colors you want. Those are ones that work for us. Um, Now line. That this is a big one because I went all this stuff. I kind of I get real in depth about all these things. What size line are you throwing? Or are you throwing braid to fluoro leader?
Yeah, I'm throwing braid to fluoro. It's just worked out so much better for me on the spinning reels, and I'll throw even I'll throw the shaky head on a bait caster setup.
Oh, okay.
Usually it's the half ounce when I start going a little bit bigger, a little bit deeper, or if I'm just trying to like bomb a cast. But yeah, on both the setups, it's always braid to fluoro leader, and generally on the spinning setup, it's usually about 12 pound, sometimes 10 or 14, but for the most part, it's going to be 12 pound fluoro.
Okay.
And on the bait casting setup, I'll step it up a little bit to like a 16, usually.
Well, that's definitely because I do 8, so that's a difference between us. I do a 12-pound floor braid to a 8-pound. I only carry 8. And that's another thing where it fits in with my system. I only carry 8-pound fluoro leader because I use that for everything, for all three of my spinning reels. So sometimes 10 or 12, especially around structure, is the right way to go. I mean, there's no doubt that's the right way to go. Um, but for me, all the time, I'm using 8 and like you said, if I'm going with the whole bait casting setup, then I will do more of a 12, 14, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to kind of be careful too. Is if if you're using the same shaky heads, like you were talking about earlier with the hook sets,
Yeah.
you don't want to like throw some 25-pound line on there and then just freaking jack their jaws up. You're gonna start. You could start bending out some hooks if you have some of that lighter wire. So you really got to make sure you're paying attention to your whole setup.
Yep. All right. Here he is, Mark Edwards. What's up, dude?
Hey, where y'all been?
Come on now. You,
Dude,
you you holding up the show, bro.
that's crazy.
Yeah. What's wrong with y'all's internet out in West Virginia, man?
Dude, it was just the phone. Like I got a tablet and it's got 4G. I mean, I was on here. Y'all seen me before it started, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, then it would say internet service, it would go off and then it would come back on. So I was like, I just turned the phone off. So I logged out, turned the phone off, and I couldn't get back on.
Hmm.
It just kept saying I had no service. And I turned the phone off 3 times and then my bill was up today, right? But I thought I paid it like a couple days ago, and
Pay
I'm
your
like,
bill, man.
Hey,
yeah.
won
And
no
then
tournaments recently.
where I didn't have service, I couldn't go through the app, and it said that I needed to call. So I got the number, called him, and then while I was on the phone with him, I logged back in, and I got back on with y'all just for a little bit, but then it said no service again. Like, uh, I'm
All
here.
right. It's
Yeah.
it's all right.
They just
Yeah,
45 minutes late.
no, that's cool, man. We'll go over a couple other things that you missed. What shaky head you using?
It's a True Track out of Georgia.
True track.
And this is right here. See, the only difference between mine and Casey's almost, we both use a screw lock. But I got a 5/0 hook. It's custom built shaky head. And man, people say the screw lock is no good, but if you can see the gap distance in between here and there on mine is really good. So I don't have no problems.
I saw like Matt Steffen, he posted a video, don't use spring lock.
Randy Blockett.
I've used spring lock for years. I've never found that to be an issue. So I don't.
Van Dam said the same thing. And I think me and Casey, we practiced together some and talk a lot. Last year I done like my own little survey. I got a regular shaky head, like they use, you know what I'm saying? And man, a worm wouldn't get 2 or 3 bites and a worm was done.
Yeah.
And I actually thought I got hung up more. I don't know. I personally didn't like it. And I tried it like 2 or 3 outings and I was like, nah.
So what would that say? You're using a bigger hook. What's your line and line?
I use 12-pound Sunline on a leader, spinning pole.
Both of y'all then 12 pounds. Yeah, maybe I need to step it up and go to a bigger one. I'm using 8. I'm using the little fairy wand,
Yeah, it's little fish still.
Come on. I caught an 8.5 last year on a Nico, and that was 8-pound line. No, I caught a 24 last year. Well, 2021 on an 8-pound line.
That's not. But I only would use light line until I needed to use light line.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm not getting any bites or something, and say go to a new lake or practice. Then I might change. There's 2 lakes in the state of West Virginia that's got really clear water, and I'll take off every leader I got to put 10 to 7-pound on. Gotcha. But they're really clear. I mean, you can see 20 foot clear. It's ridiculous.
And what worms you using?
A Zoom trick worm. Actually, this is man, I can't get that thing right. This is already one rigged up. How's that stupid thing got?
Is that an actual trick worm?
Yeah, just Zoom trick worm.
Okay. Yeah. Actual trick worm. Okay.
Yeah.
And the colors?
Man, I just stick with green pumpkin 95% of the time. And then a little bit of black and June bug. And then that's only like
y'all and Casey are the same person, 12-pound line.
Yeah, dude. We're like, and it's kind of crazy because we never even until we met each other. I mean, we used the same thing. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Okay, and rod and reel, because I've went back and forth for a long time between medium, heavy, and medium. What rod and reel y'all using?
At Smith, I've always used a 7-foot medium.
Yeah, that's where we Casey set up.
But Casey always used medium heavy, and at Smith Lake, I knocked mine overboard in practice. So it really hurt me because I lost a couple good fish during the tournament. But anyway, it was off a 6-foot. I used a 6.6 in the tournament to replace my 7-footer, and I lost a couple of fish. And I think at 7 foot, I'm really a fan of longer rods now with the spinning pole.
Yeah.
Keeping fish hooked up better. I learned that on a Ned rig. I lost a lot of fish with a short rod on a Ned rig, and now I went to a Dobbins. That's a 7-foot, 7.2 or 7.3. I'm not sure. It's long. It's a lot bigger than 7 foot, but man, I don't lose any fish on that thing.
And medium though.
The Ned rig's medium light, but when I replaced that one at Smith, I bought a medium heavy for my shaky head. And now Casey always throws a heavier head than me. I always throw an 1/8, 90% of the time, and I don't have no feel with the medium heavy on this 1/8 ounce as much as what I'd like to, but I do like the idea of the hook set. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The 12-pound line and the stronger hook set and stuff, but I don't like the feel of it so far.
Casey, I know you're a caching guy.
Yeah, so the caching, the CK series shaky head rod, man. I mean, it's the perfect rod for me. Like, it's medium heavy. I believe it's seven. Now I can't remember. It's 7 foot or 7'2", but somewhere right around that range is just. I mean, I love that setup. The only reason why I'd go any smaller than that, here at Smith Mountain Lake, and I mean really all over the country, but like skipping docks, I think you go like I think a 6'6" or 6'9", it is the perfect rod for if you're just doing nothing but skipping docks.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I agree. That 7 to 7'2", 7'3" range is perfect.
And I'm 7, and that's like you're saying 1/8 ounce. That's whenever I go to the smaller, the deception worm I was talking about, and the 1/8 ounce is whenever I'm skipping docks. That's whenever I like the lighter shaky head. But yeah, 7. It's one of my nicest setups is a 7.3 medium heavy. I use it's a Falcon Cara. They're a good one with a Daiwa LT Tatula LT 2500, which I'd probably prefer next time. Whenever I upgrade them, I'll go to 3000 because they are 2500s. Like I've always used 2500s, but it seems like with Daiwa, I kind of transferred almost all my stuff over to Daiwa. Their spinning reels are a little bit smaller, so next time I'm gonna go up to 3000.
Yeah, I definitely like a little bit bigger of a reel.
Yeah, I prefer the 3000 too.
Yeah.
It's more line per pickup, and now they make high speed spinning reels. I've been a fan of them lately. Actually, when I lost that setup, I got a Shimano what is it, Stratic,
Mm-hmm.
and
See outdoor.
it's worth the money. It is well worth the money.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always spent $100 on a spinning reel, and had good success. I mean, it's good reels, but man, this thing is really smooth, a lot smoother than before.
It seems like we'd spend it. Like if I'm going to spend money on a reel, I'm gonna spend it on a spinning reel before I'm gonna spend it on a bait caster, just because you want the drag to be so good on a spinning reel. There you go.
I'm one of the components where I'd rather have a high end reel than a rod.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not.
I think
I've got
depends
some
on
rods that's 20 years old that's just beat up with almost eyes missing,
Dang, man.
but they work. I don't know.
We gotta get you a rod.
Like, yeah, I done broke the tip off of this rod. I guess that's my heavy action rod now.
It went from medium to medium heavy.
It depends with spinning gear. Like it seems like I spend more money on my spinning gear because I want it to be, the reel and the rod. A lot of times you're dragging stuff, or there's a lot more feel to it. I'll spend more money on that than I will my bait cast setups. But
yeah, I mean, especially, I mean, it sounds like if you're throwing it a lot more too, I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense that's where you're going to want to put your money into it.
Actually, here's my setup here. I'm good with this camera, but it's a Dobbin Sierra series. It's a 704. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Dobbins numbers, but a 770 means 7 foot even, and the 4 is the power, and that's a medium heavy power.
have either of y'all used any of the BFS setup? Like that.
I'm not a
people hate
fan of
throwing
that
spinning
stuff.
gear. Yeah, I'm not either.
I think it's kind of silliness. Like I mean, you see people throwing a Ned rig with a bait caster, and it's man. And I tell you, with a shaky head, a wacky worm, and a Ned rig, I want slack line. Like I cast out, and I want slack line. So a spinning pole, you can get that slack line off, and you don't want it pinning to you. You know what I'm saying? Like with a tighter line. So I think at fall, because how many times is it you're biting on the fall?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I personally think it's a lot of the fall, and that's why I prefer
The lighter
head too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to probably fish a little bit more shallower than Casey. Maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what do both of y'all throw a Nico rig too? And if so, when are you throwing an eco rig? Because that's kind of sometimes they overlap. When are you going, or a weighted wacky? When are you going to go to a shaky head over one of those two? Do you have like what do you have any thoughts on that?
I personally don't. I ain't a fan of a Nico rig.
Really?
No, it takes you forever to rig a stupid thing up. You catch one fish and then you ain't got to wait. Then you got to get another worm. Take a shaky head, I can catch 10 fish on it.
Yeah, I can help you out with that. Holler at me after a show.
After the show, well, I thought this show was the juice
well,
show.
I mean, we'll
man.
have
What's
a
going
whole
on
other show
after
on
the?
Nico rigs. Well, we're talking about shaky heads. I don't want to waste people's time. They don't want to hear about a Nico rig. I don't want to waste their time.
Yeah, I've just I've caught a few fish on it, but personally, the time of rigging it up compared to a shaky head, I don't like that extra time. And now a few years ago in a real clear lake, we had a championship. It was 2 day, and dude, Clear Lake, I'm Ned. You know what I'm saying? Which is small shaky head, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. It's 2 3/4 inch worm compared to right at 7 inches on a trick worm. And anyhow, I couldn't get them to hit an Ed rig. I mean, I only had 1 day to practice on this place, and I could not get them to hit it. So I rigged up what you call a chicken rig. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that.
I've heard of it. Is that
But
like
that is the only thing they would hit in them brush piles. They would not hit a jig. They wouldn't hit a shaky head. They wouldn't hit a wacky rig. Like I tried a weighted wacky with a 4-inch worm, and I don't know why they wouldn't hit it. But the chicken rig is kind of a backwards Texas rig Nico is really what it is. It's actually a weedless Nico, but you're rigging it kind of Texas style, and you're leaving a little bit at the top.
Like a tiny child rig, isn't it called that too?
I got one rigged up. Hold on, I'll bring it. I got it.
There's one where it's it's where it's a Nico there's a Nico weight on the bottom, and you tie a 1 or 2/0 hook, and then you tie on a worm, and the weight's on the bottom, and it's totally weedless. But I do it whenever me and my kid go fishing. He throws that out because he can't hook me. He sits in the back of the kayak and he just whacks me with the damn thing, and he can't get the hook in me, which he doesn't hook a lot of fish either, but it's fun for him.
Yeah.
This is actually the worm from that tournament. Let me get where it's at. But see, now I do little stuff with my hooks a lot of times. Like this is just a little size 2 Gamakatsu hook, and this is just a 4-inch Zoom trick worm, or not a trick worm. It's the finesse worm, 4.5-inch worm. But I tied and put a 50-pound mono. I don't know. Can you?
Yeah.
Can you see that now? That's like a keeper. But I would slide that up, and it's stupid looking. I mean, really, it's stupid. And I mean, that's kind of the way you have it, like that. And it's actually got the nail weight in here. But when it drops down in the brush pile, it drops just like a shaky head. But then whenever you got your lines right here, so whenever you're jerking, you're kind of Nico rigging or wacky in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it was the only thing that I could get them to eat. It was a real high pressured lake, and it was our championship. And I don't know how many people was on it. There was only 2 ramps, and there was 20 people on it. I mean, so you was fishing. You was in line fishing the bank because out in the middle was 80 foot of water. So, dang. Yeah. But I went behind people and caught fish.
I will say for me, the Nico rig, whenever I choose, I definitely choose that over as whenever the bottom's like a little bit murky, or it's like a little, there's a place on Gunnersville I fish a lot, and it's just real snag area, or like the horseshoe at Pickwick. All them rocks are so snaggy that whenever you kind of want to do it, same thing as a shaky head, but you can't. You want bottom contact, but you can't really drag it. Like a Nico rig will stay up a little bit more, so that's a good alternative for that, for sure.
Yeah, the horseshoe at Pickwick is horrible.
Oh, dude, it's so nasty. But I mean, it's got, the fish are always there, but
yeah,
I would love to see it drained and see how many. I mean, I've got like so many baits up there. It's got to be millions of baits up at the Horseshoe.
The other day when we was down there for that big BAS event,
Mhm.
I never even went up in there. I mean, I fished that area, but there was 5 boats up there all the time.
Yeah.
But the guides was killing it. They live bait it now.
Mm.
And dude, you just can't
compete.
No. And they saw them out. They were laughing, and they were like catching 50, 60 fish a day, and we had 25 pound their best 5, and I'm like, you sore mouthing them all, and just it was struggle.
Yeah. All right, so we went over the hook. I mean, the actual head, the worm, the setup. So, is there anything you want to tell people on whether they're new or been doing it for a long time and they're just checking out Shaky Head or they're good at it? Like what you're saying you like slacklining. Like how are you dragging it? That kind of the how. How are you using a Shaky Head, I guess?
I shake it quite a bit.
I bet you
And
do.
a lot of times I'll actually be like, say you're not actually moving the head, but you're doing this right here, but you're just tapping it. So the tail of the worm, your tail of the worm's just ticking up, but you're really not moving the bait. But it just depends on how they want it. I mean, like I fish since I started videoing myself, with the GoPro and stuff. I thought I fished slower than people, but it was only in my mind because when I watch, I'm fishing way fast.
Yeah, the thing I found out is a lot of times if I'm not getting bit, I'll pay more attention to what I'm doing. And if I just slow down, let that bait sit there a little bit longer, then shake it or drag it or whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways to fish it, but however you're fishing it at the time, just let it sit there a little bit longer. I can't tell you how many times I've started getting bit after I've just been fishing and just so mindless that like Mark said, you start fishing a lot faster than you think you are. And I just have to tell myself to slow down and then I'll start catching fish.
That's why sometimes you'll just randomly get a bite just dead sticking it too. Like you take a stop, take a drink of water, it's just sitting there, and then you get a bite, and it's just dead too. And it's like, man, I'm definitely fishing way too fast.
Yeah, and I mean that's definitely something to pay attention to. If that happens, like, yeah, you need to make sure you're slowing down and letting it sit there.
Yeah, just let it soak.
Too now, if you do, I don't do it much with the Shaky Head, but just changing a collar of the worm, which I always use a chartreuse dye on my tail. Casey's like, he started trying it, but he really I don't think he's much of a believer in it. I think a lot of that's just mental to each person. I think it helps me get more bites, but then Casey don't think so. but I guess different times different.
I like it on a fluke. I've never done it with a worm. No,
Really?
it's I've used it. I've tried it. I can't say it's ever been like noticeable difference or
It's
I
so
wish I
mental with
could.
me. I wouldn't be able to fish without it. I have to dip it.
I heard a pro one time talking about dipping your baits and like and this stuck with me and that's why I'm hesitant to do it. But I think it works in certain situations, but I think it can also hurt in certain situations as well. So like to me, I just I unless I'm like unless it's like the last thing I have to do to try to get a bite, I'm not dipping. I'm not dipping. I have some. Mark's talked me into getting
yeah,
some, so I have
I've
some
got it
on the
in my
boat.
boat.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember I sent Mark a picture one time. We were at where we were at Murray. It was like the second day or something. Oh man, I didn't catch crap. And man, I started dipping my baits, man. By the end of the day, my whole damn bait was chartreuse. And I'm just like, it ain't working. None of it's working. I don't know what to do.
I've seen different things too, where maybe not just the tail, but like on crankbaits, they'll use like paint
The
you know,
markers.
yeah, the marker or actual paint, and they'll mark around the hook hangers so the fish have something to, like, instead just the tip, they'll do, like, if you were doing the worm, you would just chartreuse mark up where the hook goes into the bait, so then they would maybe bite closer to the hook if they were short striking or something like that. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I've got some.
always have scent on there, but I'm not real big on the dips. I have it, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I picked up a new sponsor this year, and it's Folks Custom Baits,
Folks,
and they repaint
it's
a lot
fucking
of,
good.
huh?
Sorry. None.
But you was talking about a spot. But if you noticed on crankbaits, a lot of these, see the spot on this? You know,
Yeah.
it's got a black dot. But if you ever noticed that on crankbaits, a lot of times they'll put that black dot, and that's what they say that the fish will key on. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but a lot of the old crankbait and a lot of your wooden crankbaits and stuff like that, um, they have that dot on there just for fish to key in on it.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird and different.
If it works, it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's all boils down to confidence, man.
Yeah.
It's so much mental, and it really, like with the shaky head, everybody used to throw the little 4-inch finesse worm on my local lake when I used to boat fish all the time, just to get 5 keepers. You got 5 keepers, you got to check. And everybody was throwing the same thing, and I went to the Zoom trick worm, just a bigger worm, because everybody was throwing 4-inch stuff back then. And I started doing better. You know, I started actually winning some tournaments and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, it's like I'll start with the Zoom trick worm or the Zoom shaky head worm. You know, it's like 7-inch bait, and if I'm not getting bit as much, I'll start to cut it off from there. If I think I need to downsize, you know, you can always cut some off of it and make it a little bit smaller of a profile. But I'm always going to start with that 7-inch bait on the shaky.
And it depends on, like, I've noticed with spotted bass, you know, shaky head's really good around spotted bass, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And but I prefer it, the Zoom trick worm with largemouth, actually, which you'll catch shaky head, you know, or spotted bass and stuff. But if there's smallmouth lake, you know, I ain't throwing that. I'll throw the Ned or the big TRD, which this is nothing but a shaky head, really, to me. It's a flat head, and it's just a EWG hook with a 4.5-inch Z-Man turd. But the spotted bass love these things, dude.
Yeah.
Where this thing floats up off the bottom, it's a killer on spotted bass. So for spotted bass, I prefer this.
Okay.
Which is it's a shaky head too. You know, it's just a different style of it. But in a fatter bait, have y'all ever do a Cinco much, or, you know, a 5-inch stick bait?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, dude, I think you get. I don't do it much. I mean, if I do something like that, I almost Texas rig it in a way, and I'll throw it on a bait caster. Because even though I use a 5-aught hook, but still, just a Texas rig 1/8 ounce. I actually had a buddy that I used to boat fish all the time, and he done a Zoom trick worm, and he just always Texas rigged it. He never. If you really look at the trick worm on the bottom, it doesn't really float up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of just, you know, it's just in the right spot.
It's subtle, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I like about it.
All right. So anything else y'all want to talk about shaky heads? I do have a couple other questions we're going to do on the show.
Yeah, shoot some questions over.
All right, let's do it. And there's a nod to Serious Angler Bailey over there. He asked a couple of questions at the end of the show, so I thought I would. I thought that was interesting. First, what's your number one bucket list lake? Like one that you haven't fished already. Y'all been all over. You probably fish a lot of them.
I mean, I'm sure I could come up with something. I'd probably have to say, and I don't even know the name of it, but there's some lakes in Cuba that I
Dude,
seen. I think
Cuba.
Jimmy Houston hit back in the day, and
Cuba, and he going after him cigars.
dude, I think I'd love to go to one of those.
Huh.
I was personally thinking El Salto is
Yeah,
where
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah. Mine's almost, I'll answer them too. Mine's Amistad. I drove by it whenever I was in the military, going down to Mexico all the time to go party because I wasn't 21 yet. But I was stationed in Abilene. But I never stopped and went fishing. I'm so upset with that because I bass fish back then. I came from saltwater, so a lake. I didn't care. But now I'm like, oh, pass that like once a month going to Mexico. I should have been going there instead of Mexico. What's your fluoro? You're not. You're braid to fluoro knot.
If I have time to tie it, I'll tie the FG knot now.
You know how to do it?
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to get it dialed in, but yeah, I can tie it pretty good now. It is a tough knot, man, and I do still struggle with it sometimes, and like I if I'm in a tournament out on the water and I break the leader off or need to tie on a new leader, I won't tie it. But if I'm rigging for the next day or whatever, I'll tie it up. I mean, from the videos that I've seen on it, the people doing tests and stuff on it, it really is the strongest knot. And not that I've had issues with I used to just throw or tie the uni to uni knot.
Mm-hmm.
But I would break it quite a bit. Like if I'd get hung up somewhere and I'd just like be pulling on it, I'd snap the knot. Never lost a bass on it. I've had a striper break the knot before, but I did break it a lot, like getting hung up. Mark knows I get hung up and I don't even try to get it. I'll just pull, snap the line and go. So that was really tough when I do that. Then I'd have to tie on a new leader and a new bait. So having that FG knot, I've never had one break on me.
Yeah. Mark?
I like he was saying, he breaks off a lot, man. I use the FG knot when I can, but I've only tied it on in a tournament on the water less than a handful of times. I struggle with it. Like sometimes I can do 4 or 5 knots in a row, and then sometimes it takes me 4 or 5 tries to get it right. But the modified Albright, I've used that for years. I mean, a lot of years, and it is a very, very strong knot. But I still think the FG knot's smoother.
Yeah.
But the modified Albright knot is my backup plan.
Yeah, I think that's the one you showed me, and that's what one I tie now instead of the uni to uni knot when I'm out on the water. But because it's a simple knot to tie. It's about the same thickness as the uni to uni, I'd say, but it's it's stronger for me.
Yeah, I have this app on my phone, and it was back in the day. It was called Knot Wars, and it's been out of date for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool app because it tells you the strength of each, like to mono to fluoro to braid, that they've done tests with that knot. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't have the FG knot back then when they done this, but the modified Alberto was the original name for it. A lot of people, or now they call it the Alberto knot, and it was modified Albright is the original name for it. It's the same knot.
Alberto.
Huh?
Alberto. That's what I throw.
It's a modified Albright. I work 12 hours a day, so I'm more.
I hear you, man. And last, who's your favorite pro? Like either kayak or boat?
Me, Aaron Martins. I mean, I was a big KVD fan before I grew up when I was a kid. But when I grew up, I mean, I'm a huge Aaron Martins fan. just because he was so versatile. And it didn't matter. He just adjusted to whatever he needed to do. I mean, he could flip, he could fish deep, finesse, and he really hated finesse fishing and drop shotting, but he was probably more known for that just
Yeah.
because he did whatever it took to catch fish. And the dude finished in the classic second 4 times. And you just think, I mean, if he'd have won them 4 times, how much? Yeah, he'd have been. He's already
Yeah,
one of the greatest, but
I loved watching him fish, man. I really the drop shot. I'm a big drop shotter as well, and I used to watch him just sit there and drop shot, and it was so funny because I watched an interview with him one time, and he was like, because that's all it seemed like at the time I'd see him
Yeah.
throw. Like he was always drop shotting somewhere. And then I watched this interview with him, and he's like, "Yeah, I hate throwing the drop shot when it catches fish, you know." So like that's always stuck with me. Yeah, he's an awesome dude. Um, but for me, I think to answer that, I'd have to say Brandon Palaniuk. Um, obviously, he's an awesome angler. But what gets me, man, is you always see him. He sticks around. If he doesn't do good in those events, he sticks around. He waits for that final day. He's always taking pictures with the guys, taking pictures of the guys, and helping promote them and just supporting the events and supporting the anglers, and like that means a lot to me. Like just being able to see him do that and spend his time after he just had a crappy event, but yet still stick around and support the whoever wins that event. I mean, like that's tough to do. I've tried
Yeah.
myself to be more like that, and like I know it's so tough, but I wish more of us would try to do better at that.
Mine's Randall Tharp. He's from up here. I enjoy following him. He's hardcore flipper, but and
I,
I'm really not. But I like his mindset, I guess.
I talked to Randall the first time I ever went to Gunnersville,
Oh yeah.
and he actually mentioned he still lived at Gunnersville back then. This was well 10 plus years ago. I mean, I think he was actually new on the FLW tour, like he wasn't really popular. But he told me and my buddy at the time, he said, we told him we was from West Virginia, and he said, "Man, y'all are driving past a chick." He said, "It's a secret now, but he said that's where y'all should be fishing at." He said that place is going to bust out. And that was like at least 10 plus years ago. I think I think 08 or maybe 2010. So it's been that long ago. And yeah, we should have listened. I've only still fished chick once.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I've only been there once, and it was whenever recently got that big trophy with the KFL, and man,
You had a good day. And it was
yeah.
that a shaky head day too, right?
No
Or
shaky.
trap. Or did you catch?
Yeah, half trap, half frog.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and one on wacky rig, but yeah, it was a great day. I love all Tennessee River though. That all of it's awesome to me.
There's so many fish compared to back home here.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
How do you think the New River is going to this year? Who's going there? Hobie?
Yeah, Hobie. I've heard of some guys like AJ's got to a couple guys. I talked to Eric Cormack. I don't know if you know Eric. I ran into him at the mall or Christmas Eve, and AJ had contacted him and asked him some questions. So they need to open it up a long ways. It's not, man. It is really small compared to Susky. I mean, a Susky's a mile wide there in Harrisonburg, and dude, I mean the New River in the summer is running between 2,000 CFS and 3,500. You know what I'm saying? Not much water, and the Susky, dude, is 10 times that or 15 times that. So it needs to be spread out. My personal opinion, it needs to be from Clater Dam all the way to the junction to the end of the New River.
Gotcha.
And there's a lot of white water, man. And guys that ain't familiar with it, they better be. There's a lot of it that I won't even get near.
I think we lost Casey here, but wait. Before I let you go, I want to give you a chance to shout out any sponsors you got. Anybody that makes fishing easier for you, man.
Yeah, man. I'd like to give a shout out to Fishing Online.
Fishing online.
Yeah, they really help me and support me, and
They should.
and it goes a long ways when them guys and Dakota Lithium batteries. Stormy's awesome. He really helps me and Casey both out, and Native Watercraft. I've been in a Native. That's really the only kayak I've ever owned that I've actually bought. I've won a few kayaks, but anyway. And then I picked up, like I said, the Folks Custom. And if you go to any shows, like he really sells on. He sells online, but this is an old pre-Rapella speed trap with a holographic. This thing is like super juicy. I mean, these things are expensive, but they catch big fish. And if you, Aaron Martins, he actually used this trap or this speed trap here at one of the classics in Oklahoma on Grand Lake. He finished, I think, fourth maybe, and he was throwing the smaller. But he's even got a bunch of the old. You can't the original wiggle warts, which is impossible to get. But what happens is he gets these old collars. They made so many different wiggle wart collars. It was because they caught everything. Trout. A lot of people trolled these baits. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So they had hot pink and white and yellow and just chartreuse baits, and they're kind of not sought after like the bass ones. So he picks them up at decent price, and then he paints for the bass guys.
Oh, okay.
And they're still reasonable price compared to. I mean, some of them baits go for $80 online. You know what I'm saying? And these pre-Rapellas is $35, and he has a bunch. I mean, a bunch. And what's surprising is how many pros buy stuff from him, including like this is no joke. I mean, I've known the guy for several years, and there was a big name pro fishes the Bass Pro Tour, sponsored by a company straight across the aisle from him. Right, he spends $2,000 on custom baits at the guy's booth on Thursday, first day the show opens.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of nutty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, but there's some of them baits it's impossible to get. So.
Well, cool. I know Casey. He's one of the Old Town guys. Humminbird, Johnson Outdoors. Like you said, Dakota Lithium and
Cash and rods. Yeah, and he's putting out really, really quality content too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I need to step up my game with that. I'm so horrible with this electronic crap. Like, I have no idea why I couldn't get online. I mean, I worked a 12-hour shift today. I got up at 3:30 this morning. I drive 45 minutes to work 5 to 5, went to Walmart. After work, got some stuff, come home. Dude, no internet. Casey said his phone died, and he's at work. He just sent me a message.
Yeah. No problem. But but I'm glad we were able to get you on. I just got a GoPro, so hopefully I'm going to be doing some kind of recording this year. We'll see.
I think I'm going to really try hard. I'm probably going to get 2.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't mind giving up secret. Like a shaky head's no big deal to me, giving up. For some reason, just people just don't. I always try to do something a little different following people. You know what I'm saying? Or something's trying to be a little different than wherever I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be doing the same thing everybody else is doing. That's why I throw these different baits that's hard to get a lot of times, hard baits and stuff. But you're always just trying to be open-minded and just a little bit different.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the Zoom trick worm I don't even try anything else on a shaky head. I used to do robo worm a little bit, a fat robo worm.
Yeah.
Which they're actually great. I mean, they catch a lot of fish, but I can put a Zoom trick worm on and catch and go through 2 or 3 worms in a day or something and catch 15 or 20 fish.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that.
Some baits, it just doesn't make sense to get crazy or anything else. And some baits are just fish catchers. I mean, there's a reason. I mean, even I like the egg zones and the tails float. I think that makes a difference. But
So the tails float on that.
yeah,
Have
but
you
I
do
mean,
test underwater? Do you put the bait on and just look in the water sometimes and see what it does? Or
in my tub, yeah, yeah,
in
me and
your
my kid.
tub?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were sitting. I fill up the tub and I sit there and play with it, just see what they did. Because I really wanted to know. Because they have 2 different ones. I talked about this earlier, but they have the deception worm, which is smaller, and then they have the MB Fat Finesse, which is thicker. And the MB Fat Finesse, the tail floats better, even though it's a thicker bait. You think it wouldn't float as much, but I guess the air pocket in the tail is better than the one in the deception worm.
Yeah.
So,
And less
yeah,
salt in the back end.
yeah. So if I mean, these don't have any salt in them, so they float. But the deception worm, I use it for more like skipping, whenever I want a little bit lighter bait to skip, or or if I'm around spots a lot down here. So we don't have too many smallmouth, and I mean, you have to go up to Tennessee River where I live to catch spots. I mean, smallmouth, but those
Yeah,
are 2 worms I use. Yeah.
I had a good time at Pickwick area. I
Oh yeah.
beat myself. Like, I guess competitive people beat yourself up a lot, because you're competitive, and I went down there with the mindset I got to win it. So I picked one area. If the water was right, I was going to fish it, and I didn't fish. Well, you get 3 days of practice, 2 days of tournament. So 5 days, I didn't. Well, I wasn't a mile and a half from. I was within a mile and a half, and only one day. I mean, actually, I was almost in the same area, but dude, that place is awesome.
Yeah.
There's so many
Pickwick is.
fish.
Yeah.
And I guess you don't go off your gut feeling. Like, I knew it was going to be tough, and I said, if they don't turn this one gate on, I'm going to kind of struggle maybe, which that's what happened. They didn't turn that stupid thing on, and I never threw a shaky head. I beat myself up over that, or drop shot. I said, if I throw a shaky drop shot or shaky head, I'll beat out a limit in here. You know what I'm saying? And every fish I was catching in practice, when I got one to bite, it was giant. It was unreal. And I caught
that there's an event this year for North Alabama kayak anglers in June. It's an event that there's a top up event. So it's if you live in Alabama or you live in southern Tennessee, the North Alabama Kayak Anglers is doing a joint event with Coleman Kayak Anglers. Plus, there's a new 4-stop trail, like $100 top up on top of that. So, like $140 tournament on Pickwick, like the first week of June this year. First week of June is whenever the magic happens. Like the very end of May, the first couple of weeks of June is like magic time, whenever the fish are stupid and they're out there, they're biting 50 fish days. If you've ever wanted to fish a tournament on Pickwick, and whenever they're actually biting, go to Pickwick for that North Alabama Kayak Anglers event this year. It's the right time. They'll do a big boondoggle where everybody could camp. It's like the best time, a lot of fun. They give out a ton of prizes. Plus, you can put $100 into the high roller pot, and you can make a couple of grand probably. So it's going to be a big event this year. I'm really really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm so busy, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The local things, like, to me, the New River's local.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I got local. I mean, I'll have club events, but they average 2 hours plus away from me. I live at the southern tip of West Virginia. I work actually in Virginia. Have you drove through 77 in the tunnel? Have you been
Nah.
up by the tunnel? Anyway, I drive through that thing every day to work. But so, man, I just a lot of time on the road. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to do the whole bass schedule this year, I think, again. It looks good.
Yeah, I want to. That's my.
Are you going to do the bass schedule? The whole bass schedule?
That's what I want to do. That's why I'm not fishing KFL, because I kind of want.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm not fishing it this year. I wanted to commit to bass this year. That's why we didn't. A couple of us wanted to fish some other stuff, and Lance has some family stuff that's why, even though we won a KFL, we didn't want to redo Coosa Kingfishers again this year. We didn't want to, you know. So my plan was to fish all the bass events, but we kind of have all of our stuff together for the first time in Alabama this year. That with those 4 event top up deals, like I know Bass is coming to Gunnersville. I would love to fish Hobie. I love Harris Chain. That's probably one of my favorite places.
I liked Harris Chain,
Yeah,
and it was awesome.
yeah, Bass. You were there last year. Like I didn't. Something came up and I couldn't fish it. I would love to fish Hobie there. I would love to fish. I'm going to fish bass on Gunnersville no matter what. Plus, there's a TVKA and a rattle trap tournament on Gunnersville, which is probably also in March. And I won the TVAK event there last year. I mean, I love Gunnersville in the spring, so I'm definitely fishing that bass event. It's just tough, man. I got a certain amount of vacation time. I got a 6-year-old, and being a dad comes first. So
100%.
do I want to go all the way to kind of central West Texas and West Virginia, or not West Virginia, to Pennsylvania, to Wisconsin? I could fish 4 for sure. I could fish here, Gunnersville and Hartwell, and I guess Texas would be like 10 hours. I could do those for sure, no doubt. So,
when we fished Possum Kingdom a few years ago,
yeah,
I was in a club derby was the next day, and I drove 19 hours. I fished that tournament. I was pissed because I got 13th place. I had a mediocre first day. I was like 30th place or something, and like 50 plus people were at Possum Kingdom where it flooded, and we were so concentrated to the lower end of the lake because all that mud was coming. Dude, I'm literally looking forward to Possum Kingdom this year. Really, really high hopes of that place not flooding and being normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second day I just said I'm not launching with 55 people again. And and I was in 30th place, and I hadn't got to practice on the other end of the lake because it flooded and you couldn't cross the bridge. Like we were like 5 minutes from the bridge to get to the other end of the lake, but it flooded in practice. So the only way to get to that end was either take your motor across the lake, which you could, but anyway, or go all the way around the long way around the lake. Would have been like 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
So yeah, one way. So it'd been a 4-hour trip. So anyway, the last day of the tournament, I just blindly went to a ramp, and man, it was so awesome.
So
I caught 90 inches in like at the last hour and a half of that tournament.
So you're fishing all the bass events?
Yeah. And I happened to fish. Me and Casey fished lacrosse the first year of bass, and I did really well at the first tournament, so I was already qualified. So I fished lacrosse because I knew it was just a dream goal to go up there and fish, and it was awesome, dude. It was just unreal the amount of fishes in there.
Yeah.
And I was trying to win it. So I seem to struggle more when I'm trying to win it than just to go out and go catch your fish.
Yeah.
And like my best tournaments last year of practice, which you hear this all the time, even the pros, they'll say is not their best results.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think what it is, you get your mind caught up and you're not open-minded enough to change a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You're kind of stuck. Right? I was so stubborn. At Pickwick, the first day, if I'd have just caught two 12-inchers, would have got second, and like a 14 out of 12, I'd have won it. I only had 3 fish the first day, and I was, which I still might do it. I'm friends with a guy that's a writer for bass now. Just got hired. He's from West Virginia, and I done the weights. You know how Attorney X does the weights, and it's not 100%. We know that, but it's a rough guesstimate. And I had 28 some pounds with 8 fish at Pickwick, and I think Drew had 31.99, and I would have finished second by weight wise, and I finished 18th, I think, in the tournament as far as inches wise. I was 2 fish short. One 12-inch fish would have got me 7th place, I think. Kind of crazy.
I hear you. But my goal is I'll probably fish at least 4. I might not fish Susquehanna because that is so far, but I've always wanted to go La Crosse. I keep putting it off. I never go. The southern 3 I should fish, and then the long one I'll probably go fish La Crosse and then skip out on Susquehanna.
See, the Susky, man. I've done well. Last year I done really well on New River, and I do pretty good on it a lot of times. But that's probably my biggest weakness in the state. I do well here at home on the new, but all the other rivers I struggle at. I mean, all the other rivers is small rivers, and you got to do floats.
Yeah.
And I fish slower on the river than everybody else, so I'm always like the last one. It'll be like 5 of us launch at the same place, and I'm the last one.
Waiting
And
on you.
these guys that win all the time, they do the same. Every one of them does the same thing. They're the first ones covering water and are throwing one or 2 baits. And I don't know. I'm kind of frustrated with that. And I never went to Susky because it's kind of they're throwing the same bait, and I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Whopper plopper.
I hear you. And Gizmo last year. Yeah.
Huh?
And Gizmo.
Oh, the Gizmo, yeah, was low and slow. Yeah. But they still caught some on the Chopos and the ploppers still.
Yeah.
Watch these videos.
All right. This video is running long. Well, man, we appreciate that. Thank y'all, everybody, for listening. If you followed over from Paddle and Fin, I appreciate it. Hopefully you're going to get a lot out of these shows. And thank you, Mark, and thank you, Casey, for being on. And we'll see you on the next one. If you're going out on the water, please wear your PFDs. See y'all.
Thank you, Dan.